just occurred to me we really haven't had a completely successful test of this equipment.
I blame myself.
So do I.
Well, no sense worrying about it now.
Why worry? Each of us is wearing an unlicensed nuclear accelerator on his back.
Yeah. Now let's get ready. Switch me on. I don't think you're crazy.
Back off, man. I'm a scientist.
What is up, Ghostheads? It's another edition of the Ghostheads radio show. My name is Ted, aka Steady, and we got a great show for you guys. 2024, the 40th anniversary of Ghostbusters, the movie inching ever so closer. And oh my gosh, it's exciting. There is stuff going on everywhere. Every day, every weekend, there's more news, there's more teasers, there's more posters. It's all exciting, and it's great to be in this situation, in this scenario where we can all be excited together. It's not happened that often that Ghostbusters fans can all rejoice in the fandom and all the things that are happening. So, everybody, just take a moment and appreciate all that is going on right now in the world surrounding Ghostbusters. I think it's all necessary. It's good for all of us to do that. We've not had it this good in a very long time. So do yourself a favor, you and your friends, make sure you all take a moment to appreciate everything that's happening in the Ghostbusters universe today. Before we begin, got to give a shout out to our sponsor. If you're in the San Antonio area, visit the Eisenhower Flea Market so that you can go check out Real Retro. Without Real Retro, I never would have gotten my Terror Dog bobblehead. Check that guy out. Yes, Real Retro. Fantastic individuals. They have fandom galore. Everything from the 70s, 80s, and the 90s, from merch to collectibles to apparel. Anything you can think of, you can probably find it at Real Retro. All right. Bryce is already here. What is going on, sir? What is up? Welcome, sir. You are early. Appreciate it. What's going on in the news today? We have a couple of items just to mention real quick before we begin. The first of which is that Finn, good old Finn, is going to be on an episode of Hot Ones. If you don't know what Hot Ones is, it is a YouTube channel. Fantastic show. I actually love it a lot. They're going to be talking to Finn mostly about Ghostbusters, I hope. And the whole point of the show, the interview, is that you progressively eat wings that become hotter, and not the wings you probably are used to. These things are like off the scale of hotness, things that only people who are borderline insane would probably eat for fun. So Finn's going to be on Hot Ones tomorrow, February 29th. The video will go published at 11 a.m. Doesn't say Eastern. I assume it's Eastern. On First We Feast on YouTube. So be sure to check that out. I appreciate Hot Ones a lot because it is a great interview show. It's a great team. They do amazing work, and it's something that I've come to appreciate. In other news, we have some new character posters. I'm going to show one right now from the new Ghostbusters Frozen Empire movie. Everyone make some noise for the Mini Puffed. Now, I understand that some fans are on the fence about the Stay Puft Minis still being in this universe because a lot of folks think, or it's probably just assumed, that these guys are in some shape, way, or form like a minion, not a minion of Gozer, but somehow tied to Gozer's presence on the planet. And so without Gozer, we probably should not have Stay Puffed Minis uh, in and around New York City. But let's give Jason and Gil the benefit of the doubt, and let's see if they actually give us something to determine why they are sticking around. Let's do that. There could be a good reason for it. Do I know what that is right now? I do not. But there could be. And also, we got a character poster for the ugly little spud himself, Slimer. He's got his own character poster. You see what I'm talking about? This is what I'm talking about when I mean that we've got it good right now. Slimer, of all characters in Ghostbusters fandom, has his own character poster. I mean, these are the times that we're living in, and I think it's incredible. I really do. If you're in the chat, say what's up. Let me know which poster you guys appreciate and like more. Got some comments right here. Ecto Cooler Resurgence, Slimer. We need to get that campaign like really bumping, like off the charts. We need to make sure that we succeed. Ecto Cooler Resurgence. We cannot have a fourth movie in this universe and not have Ecto Cooler around that time, or the 40th anniversary for that matter. In other news, I need to give a shout out to the South Dakota Ghostbusters. The South Dakota team, you're probably familiar with if you watch this show. They have started a subscriber club for their team. They're calling it the South Dakota Ghostbusters 80s Club. You get access to exclusive content and a whole bunch more. For details and other information regarding their subscriber club, go check out the South Dakota Ghostbusters team on Facebook. All right. And then one more item. This weekend, I spoke with the promoter a few weeks back, and now it's almost here. We are days away from the Midland Mall Comic Con, March 2nd and 3rd, from 10 a.m. to the evening time, 6 p.m. on Saturday, 5 p.m. on Sunday. If you have not seen my interview with the promoter, Paul King, this is going to be Ghostbusters decked out from like top to bottom. It is a fantastic celebration of the 40th anniversary. He's doing it right. All the vendors are going to be putting out Ghostbuster exclusive merchandise, the decorations, the photo opportunities, everything you can imagine. Ghostbusters from head to toe. All the Ghostbuster chapters in the area are going to be in attendance, so it's going to be amazing to be surrounded by that many Ghostbuster teams. For more information, please go to Midland Mall Comic Con on social media. You see what I'm talking about? We get just so much stuff going on. There may be a few folks watching right now that are waiting for a special giveaway. I did tease yesterday on our Geekcast stream that there would be a movie giveaway today. Well, not to be that guy, but I'm going to make you guys wait just a little bit longer. Is that okay? I think that's okay. I'll at least tease what it's going to be. We've partnered with Lionsgate to bring you guys a pair of free tickets to go see the new imaginary movie. No, 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 not the If movie with Ryan Reynolds. Sometimes these things happen where like there's two movies that come out at the same time, but they're drastically different. This is about the evil imaginary friends you grew up with as a kid, not the fun, colorful ones that Ryan Reynolds is coming out with in that If movie. So I'm gonna tell you how you can win these tickets at the end of today's stream. So stick around, and it's gonna be great. And if you're wondering if you even qualify or if it would even matter to you, the tickets are going to be for redeeming on adamtickets.com. Adamtickets.com sells tickets to theaters across the country. So there's actually a very good chance that you would be able to redeem these tickets. All right. I'm going to read a few more comments and then we're going to get on with our interview. Bryce says Ray stated that podcast single handedly defeated a manifestation of Gozer. Ooh, did he really? Hector Collusion says, we shall succeed. Absolutely. And Bryce says, thanks for the plug. If you were watching the stream last week, we do appreciate you. We had the Twin Ports Ghostbusters on to talk about all the good things that they do, as well as a documentary that they are part of called Nerds Doing Good. We actually showed a trailer for Nerds Doing Good on our stream last week, and a lot of people watching were just like, "Yes, this is what I need in my life right now," and I completely agree. And so now today, with me, with all of us, is the director and the filmmaker for Nerds Doing Good. We want to thank him for shining a spotlight on another great franchise because there's so many of you guys out there. Welcome to the show, Keith Hopkins. What's going on, Keith?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me on the show, Ted. This is awesome.
Absolutely, absolutely. Had to because um, it's something that I spoke about last week, so you might have already heard this, and you guys watching definitely heard this. But I started this show a few years back, and then quickly wanted to meet other teams, and I wanted to meet other teams because I wanted to understand them and I wanted to let other folks know, hey, this is how amazing these groups are. Like, we're not just kind of helping out, we're not just like, giving money to charity groups or giving checks to like big organizations. These teams are out in like freezing temperatures, collecting donated toys. They are giving up their weekends for this event, that event. They're throwing on a 30-pound proton pack and a full flight suit in the summer in the
Yeah.
state of Texas. That's what we do here. And there's just so much that everybody does. And I will do everything that I can to shed a light and put a spotlight on what teams are doing. But you, sir, you went above and beyond by following the Twin Ports Ghostbusters team for it was like a year or so.
It was over a year, and it wasn't constant filming. They'd let me know when they've got an event coming up, and I'd tag along. Sometimes I'd go with them to their homes and hang out and get footage and stuff. So it was, we all work full time, so it was very much a weekend warrior kind of filming. But yeah, I think the events in the movie span over a year.
Yeah.
Um,
And tell me how this initially started, because I'm sure you didn't say, I'm going to go follow these Ghostbusters and all the good things they're doing, but it definitely feels like it developed into a bigger, more passionate project for you.
Yeah, well, I became friends with Matt Rasmussen first. We worked together at a TV station, and he also started a movie of mine. You see, right? That's actually him in the poster right there.
Nice.
I knew that he was in this Ghostbusters group, and I grew up, since the age of 4, just being obsessed with Ghostbusters, especially real Ghostbusters. Um, and I've been in the comic book Comic-Con type of communities for a long time, and I've always known that a lot of cosplayers engage in charities and community service. We all know about Bat Kid Begins and all that stuff. Make-A-Wish Foundation. Cosplayers are involved in this stuff. but not all cosplayers. And the more I got to know Matt and learn about his Ghostbusters group and start looking at other Ghostbusters group, I began to realize that like being involved in charities and community service with Ghostbuster group is not like the exception. It's like the standard. And so when you talk to Ghostbusters groups, it's not like, oh, do you guys have a charity? It's like, what charity are you involved in? Because all the groups have got one or several that they're kind of, you know, helping out. And I do think that that is somewhat unique to Ghostbusters fandom. You know, I don't know that like, you know, if you like gathered up all the Wolverines at a comic book convention and said like, what charities are you guys all involved in? And I
I'd be
don't
like,
know
what are you
if they'd
talking
have
about?
I don't know if they'd have an answer. Maybe one of them has been like, oh yeah, I did a Make-A-Wish thing once. But like Ghostbusters, like you said, Ghostbusters all around the country and all around the world are out every weekend raising money for causes they believe in. And that's a really amazing thing. And I wanted to get that story on film.
Yeah, and it's a standard. It's like the criteria. Like you don't start I feel like you don't even start a group unless you're already thinking about those things. Like
Yeah.
it's not enough to just put this on. You're gonna put it on because you want to do something with it. The power of the appeal of the franchise and bringing joy to kids or families who love the movies. I mean, there's just not it's not enough to just wear a flight suit. It's not enough to just haul around a proton pack. You actually want to put it to good use. And the best use you can think of is to raise funds, uh, gain support, you know, spread awareness, and it really is. It's just wild that it goes hand in hand, and I don't know why it goes hand in hand. They're not really like, you know, sponsoring charity groups in the movies. I mean, they're saving the world, but that's not exclusive to Ghostbusters films. So yeah, it's wild that
It
it just
is.
feels so simple and so um unique that it just goes hand in hand with these groups, all of them.
And I tried to really like dig into that, you know, and like find the answer. Like, what is it about Ghostbusters specifically? And I even like asked that in the movie, like, what is it about Ghostbusters specifically? And you know, there's a lot of reasons. You know, it's like everybody gets into Ghostbusters when they're a kid. Most people do. And it's like, well, yeah, but most people get into X-Men when they're kids also. You know, so like, what is it about Ghostbusters specifically? And it's like it's been really hard to pin down for me. But there's
You
certainly
tried. You tried, and I actually love the attempt. I think you got closer than anybody else I can think of.
well, and like, you know, I posed the question on Reddit pretty recently in my marketing efforts. You know, I asked like why do so many Ghostbusters groups get involved in community service? And a couple people messaged me and were like, because if we didn't, this whole thing would just be insane. Like we're adults, we're like, what are we doing? Like if we're gonna, right, like you said, if we're gonna wear this 40-pound pack and it's 90 degrees outside, we got to be doing something good at the same time, you know. And that's another thing, I keep on going back to Wolverines. I don't know why I picked Wolverine, but like you don't really see like Wolverine, you know, at a birthday party or at, you know, outside a mall, just like handing out trading cards to kids. Ghostbusters are doing that stuff. You know, it's not
Yeah.
just the San Diego Comic-Con. It's about getting out there and just meeting people in your community. And yeah, it's crazy to me that Ghostbusters groups, like, why Ghostbusters? But it's something about Ghostbusters touched people's hearts and just made them want to make the world a better place. It's like lightning in a bottle, you know?
100%. And for anybody who's just joining us now, we are talking with Keith Hopkins, who's the filmmaker for a documentary called Nerds Doing Good. I'm going to share a link with everybody in the chat. Here we go. And this is on the Cineverse website and app. Cineverse is 100% free. You don't need to pay any subscription to watch it. So once the stream is over, please go to your computer, go on your phone. It's less than half an hour, and just enjoy a fantastic documentary about folks like you, the Twin Ports Ghostbusters, who I feel I meet with these groups every week. I meet with a new group every week, and I see my group in them, and I see their group in the next group, and like everybody, we all have this great dynamic, and you kind of see, the same players and the same relationships and the same bonds, but it's still wonderful to kind of dig into their passions and dig into what makes them driven, what drives them to getting out there and just pouring their heart into their communities. I mean, nobody gets a paycheck for this. You know what I mean? And yet we're donating so much of our time. I whenever we do the annual toy drives, um, I'm part of the leadership group. I'll just call it that because there's no other name for it. And I try to track like how many donations we're all doing, because it's great when one team says, "Hey, we did 200. Hey, we did 300." But then when you see all 40, 50 teams collectively and you put that number together, it's a
Yeah.
massive number. And then you
Yeah.
can really start to quantify like just how incredible these teams are. And it's wonderful.
Yeah. I did the movie about Twin Ports Ghostbusters because I know them and they're my friends and
Sure.
we live in the same town. But really, like, one thing I wanted to get across is that the movie is really about all Ghostbusters groups. Because the Twin Ports Ghostbusters are part of a movement. They're not on an island. This is a whole bigger thing. And we tried to do that by including some of the Wisconsin groups. But yeah, I just really wanted to capture this moment in this large movement.
The last time I checked, Nerds Doing Good is number 4 in the top 10 on Cineverse. Has it gone up since then?
It's up to number 3 now.
Ooh,
yeah,
all right.
Honestly, it's a huge shocker to me. Like when the movie finally got onto the streaming service, which the timing worked out really well. I found out that the movie got picked up by Cineverse over 6 months ago. And when I found out it was going to be Cineverse, I was thrilled because they just distributed Terrifier 2, which is a huge hit, especially in the horror community, and Ghostbusters is very horror adjacent. So I was like, this is the perfect place for the movie to be. And I was kind of thinking it was going to get put on there in a couple weeks or a month. And then I just kept waiting and waiting, feeling more and more anxious about it. And when it just got put on, I guess it's been about a month now. I realized that the timing was kind of perfect because Ghostbusters fandom is at a fever pitch right now, a fever pitch almost like it's never been before. And people are so hungry for anything Ghostbusters related right now. So really the timing was very much a blessing in disguise.
Absolutely. And everybody watching, once the stream is done, you're going to go out and you're going to watch it again, and you're going to share it with your friends, and you're going to send a link to your family, and we're going to get this movie where it belongs. Number 1 on Cineverse. That's exactly where it belongs.
Yep.
We will not stop until we conquer Cineverse.
I've got, I don't have a lot of money for this kind of stuff, but I've got a Facebook ad going, and I've been like tweaking the image, tweaking the wording and stuff until I got down to a 19-cent cost per click. And just been doing like $3 a day. And now tonight I'm like, all right, well, we're going to do the podcast. I did a billion Facebook posts, so I increased it to $30 a day. And I won't do it for long. I'll do it for a couple days. But the idea is that all these different pushes, and Twin Ports Ghostbusters have been amazing. They're the most amazing marketing partners you could ever hope for. And so, we might get to number 1. When the movie came out, I was not expecting it to get into the top 10. Cineverse has all these different carousels, like all the streaming apps. They've got your documentaries and your new releases. And I'd kind of scroll through and I'd be like, I wonder if this is going to pop up on documentaries. And then one night I saw it I think it was number 7 when I first noticed it. And I was like, holy cow. I did not expect this because it's up there with Terrifier 2 and classic like Three Stooges movies and stuff. So to see our little tiny northern Minnesota documentary even just be up there next to Art the Clown is like, it's kind of mind-blowing.
We will not stop until we've conquered Cineverse. We're going to get it to number 1. Keith, I'm very interested in finding out about people and how they sort of get into their career fields. When did you know you either wanted to be a filmmaker, or when did movies just become like your thing?
Well, I actually grew up wanting to be a comic book artist. And when I was a kid, you couldn't get me away from my sketch pad. And then I got to college and discovered that I actually wasn't very good. Um, it's like as a kid, I had very supportive parents, and, you grow up in a small school and you're like, oh, I can draw. So I must be great at drawing, and I'm going to be drawing comic books. And then I realized in college, in a bigger pond, that I couldn't cut it. So I thought, like, what is it about comic books that I love so much? And it's sequential storytelling. And I also grew up loving movies. And I said, well, if I can't draw what I picture in my head, maybe I can point a camera at it, and apply the same skills, I'd been working on, which is just comic books are just sequential storytelling. And that's what movies are too. And then, like, later on, I don't know if you know who Frank Miller is, but, he wrote
Of
Sin City.
course,
Yeah. So Frank
Dark Knight
Miller,
Returns.
I felt so validated when Frank Miller got into films, because I've always thought that his comic books read like storyboards. I'm like, this guy's got to make movies. And then when he got into movies, I was like, oh, that transition from storyboarding a comic to shooting a movie is totally validated.
I love it. I love it. Was there like a single movie or something that might have like really just it clicked for you?
I mean, I grew up loving Blues Brothers like a lot. Like,
Wow.
4 years old, and I think like the car chases really like captivated my imagination. And even at like 4 years old, I tried to like imagine how they shot this, and I was totally wrong about how they shot it. In my mind, I'm like, all right, so the guys are driving down this highway in this unbroken scene. They must have lined the highway with like hundreds of cameras to catch them going by, thinking they did everything in one take. And obviously that's not how they did it, but it was that early that I was trying to be like, what are the mechanics of this,
Yeah.
and it took me a long time to understand it. Ghostbusters was another one. My dad would, when I was 4, there was scenes in Blues Brothers, like the nun kicking the guys down the stairs, and Elwood calling her an effing penguin. He didn't want me to see that. And then same thing with Ghostbusters. There were certain scenes that, like, he knew I was going to love the movie, but he didn't want me to see certain scenes. So he'd
Sure.
have VHS decks, and he would create edited versions of these movies so that I could watch them when I was little. And so that was,
Wow.
like, another, so the idea that like a movie was edited between one tape to another, like, was ingrained in me really, really early, because I knew that my dad was doing this for me.
I was just about to say that. Like he was already editing videos, for your entertainment. And it's a great unorthodox way of being exposed to like film production in some, weird sort of detour. So yeah, no, that's fantastic. Because I'm sure you were like, ooh, that was, I mean, you're not thinking anything. He's probably editing it so that it's flawless, right? Like seamless. He doesn't want to cut anything too short, any scenes the wrong way, like lose anything that would be integral to the story. So he really has to spend some time doing that for you. And that's
Yeah,
fantastic. I've never heard that before ever.
in my memory, the scenes are pretty unbroken. But then, I'd be watching TV and Ghostbusters would come on. And I remember one scene that was not in my cut of Ghostbusters was Dana rising from the bed, and, because that probably would have given me nightmares when I was 4. And I remember, like, when I'd see something like that, I'd be like, Dad, like, why isn't this in my movie? And he's like, oh, well, I edited that out. And, it really, I don't know how conscious I was of this at the time, but it puts it in your head, like, movies are made by people who are taking one shot and putting it up next to another shot, and there are choices being made, and it's done very deliberately. And then you can take that movie and bring it home and cut it your own way,
100%. And Don Jensen's in the chat saying exactly what you just said. You experienced the new Ghostbusters movies as you grew up, and he added the best parts back in. So yeah, it's you had a whole new experience watching them when you were old enough to like see all those scenes before. I'm sure the Dana scene, I'm sure the Ray being visited by the
Oh, yeah,
ghost
that
scene was probably taken out.
scene was out. That scene was definitely out.
I watched that as a kid, and I had no idea what was happening. So
Yeah, I'm sure I wouldn't have either. But there are other parts of that VHS, like Stay Puff going through the city. That was in my cut, and I think I just wore out my VHS just like watching that and rewinding it and watching it. And I'm still like blown away by that scene because like you look at that Marshmallow Man walking through the city and it's real. And nobody's making movies like that anymore. Like this is a real model or a real guy in a suit rather walking through a real model city. And Jesus, it just looks like you're standing right in front of it, you know? And
yeah,
it's just such a mind-blowing scene still to this day.
yeah, fantastic. It still holds up. All those films still hold up. The
Yeah.
best 80s movies, even if you go back to the 70s, there's a few, I mean, 70s films that still hold up. My favorite my favorite horror movie is still Halloween, the original John Carpenter 78 movie.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I can watch it at any time because it still holds up. It's not lost any of its appeal. It's the tension, the drama, the suspense. It's always there. It never goes away. It's odd,
Yeah.
but it
And
just never goes away.
one thing that always strikes me when I watch that movie is the theme, the music. You know, it that music seems so ahead of its time to me. Like you didn't hear music in movies like that at that time. Like you hear it all the time today. You know, it almost sounds like a Hans Zimmer theme or something. And I'm like, how did they come up with this? Like, how old is that movie? Is that movie 40? Or it's
That
over 40?
over 40, yeah. It'll be it's 46, I guess.
Crazy. And people
46 years now.
are trying to imitate it to this day. Yeah.
Oh yeah, 100%. It's still the blueprint, right?
Yeah.
So good. Um, so you're growing up, you know what you're kind of wanting to do. Tell us, and for anybody who's out there who might be an aspiring filmmaker later on, what were some of those sort of major stepstones that you took or leaps to kind of becoming a filmmaker?
I think the biggest lesson I learned, and this has become easier with the evolution of technology around us,
Sure.
is to not wait for some big Hollywood producer to pay you $1 million for your script. Like just assume that that is not going to happen, and just if you have some enthusiastic friends and a halfway decent script and a smartphone, like you can shoot your movie. So don't wait to get a $50,000 camera and don't wait for James Cameron to produce it. Just go out and start filming. It doesn't even matter if it's good because the next one will be good, right? That's what Ed Wood always said. Like, oh, this movie was terrible. Well, yeah, but the next one's going to be good. And I mean, Ed Wood didn't, I think, ever make his good film, but like, I think it's a great philosophy. Just to accept that like you will get better. So just keep on doing it, you know?
Absolutely. There's no experience like hands-on experience, and I feel like trial by error is kind of the best because it really ingrains into your brain. Like you download and process everything just a lot more, and it sticks with you if you're going through this and you are troubleshooting as you go along. That's how I dealt with everything else in my life, my own like real job and stuff like that. And doing this, I've been doing this for it'll be 9 years in April,
Nice.
and it
Nice.
started off very different because podcasts weren't that prevalent 9 years ago, nor was the technology to allow you to do it from the comfort of your home. So I was working all analog audio, analog recording. Had to
Nice.
like change it all up, put into um, a software to change into an MP3, and it's how we got started. It was time consuming and very slow. So it's mind blowing. Like you mentioned, technology has changed in all career fields, and so yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Um, is it
Use
is it all documentaries that you? When did you know you wanted to get into documentaries? Because I love me a good documentary because especially because they are at the core truth about a subject, truth about an incident, truth about just giving us everything you didn't get to hear about or see or know. They can be extremely educational at times or entertaining. Yours was a little bit of both. But when did sort of you decide to start making documentaries?
Well, I make all kinds of stuff. I like
Okay.
so this is a horror anthology. I've written a nonfiction book about horror movies and a fiction book that's a horror story. I've done some music documentaries. And so I'm always engaged in some kind of creative activity. Sometimes, like when you're trying to come up with a script or a book or a story, you get burnt out. And one of the things I love about documentary is that you can stop trying to think up of what the story is going to be. Just show up with your camera and let the story find you, more or less. And that's exactly what I did with Twin Ports Ghostbusters. The first thing I ever shot with them was a parade, and they were just, Matt and a couple of the other guys, they had asked me if I'd want to film a documentary. I think they asked me before I asked them, about the prospect of doing a documentary. And the first thing I did is I just showed up at a parade with them and just started shooting. And that's when the wheels start to turn. So I think if you're a filmmaker and you've got a script, or maybe you don't have a script, you don't know what to write, or if you've got writer's block, I think a documentary is a great way to go, because like I said, you just film and let the story find you. And eventually what the movie needs to be about will present itself.
That's great advice, and I don't think that can be said enough. And you mentioned you did a music documentary. Music's a lot the same way. Music is a lot. Music is like that in a lot of the same ways. You start kind of creating a piece, and a different tempo or a different sound, a different instrument that you incorporate, kind of makes it take on a life of its own. I'll call myself a part-time musician as well. And when I do gigs, I go with the energy and of the crowd, of where we're at, the venue and all that. If we're playing a song and it's got great energy and the audience is reacting really well, well then I'm gonna tell the band like, hey, keep going, don't stop this, and
Nice.
try and tap into that energy as long as we can. And it's great. Music can be like that too. So yeah, I love that part. I love that you said that. The story, let it develop on its own. Don't force anything. It's a very genuine way of storytelling, and so I think it's fantastic. When was the moment when you understood what this documentary was going to become?
Ah, man, that's a really good question. I think if you watch to the very end, I should have brought it. It's right over on the other side of my basement here. But I have a ghost trap that my dad made for me when I was a kid out of
I remember
plywood
that. Yeah.
and caution tape. And I think when I realized that object had to be at the very end, and that so much of what Ghostbusters and also fandom is passing down the things you love to the people you love.
Yeah.
And once I realized that was where it had to end, I kind of was able to work backwards from it and re-engineer it. I had already done a really significant amount of editing by the time I realized that was going to be the ending. But I think one of the nice things about, not doing something that's live like this, not doing live TV, when you're doing edited productions, you can know what the end is and then work your way backwards and make sure you're weaving that ending into everything you do. And I think that's when the whole thing really started to take shape. Prior to that, it was, gathering my interviews and being like, all right, well, here's Jay, Matt, Jeremy, and Clark talking about Ronald McDonald House. So all that stuff goes together. And here's them all talking about the car. All right, that all goes together. And here's them talking about how they put together their proton packs. Oh, that scene actually didn't make it into the movie, but it would have been a cool scene. But in the end, it just didn't quite fit into the whole
Sure.
palette. But anyway, that's kind of a roundabout way of answering your question. But yeah, that was kind of when it really started to click for me. Like, this is like the heart of the film.
Just so folks out there understand, like, how much time and effort is spent, how many hours of footage do you think you probably recorded?
Um, that is a good question. Maybe, I don't know, I might have 2 or 3 hours, maybe even 4 hours of footage, that all got distilled down into a 22-minute documentary.
Yeah.
Um,
That's a ton
it
of
was,
work. That is a
it,
ton of work.
it
Yeah,
was, you know what? It never felt like work because it was always
sure.
everything those guys do is just always so much fun just to hang out with them and ride around with them and like let them blast off the Ecto-1 siren. Like it never ever felt like work, you know? Uh,
Especially the part where Clark runs over a tree, which I was just like
I
I
love
was laughing so hard when that happened.
and he goes, "Don't film this." And in my mind, at that moment, I'm like, "Oh, that line is absolutely going in."
Oh, there's always those stories with the Ecto, especially not in a bad way, but talking to cops, law enforcement.
Oh, I'm
Yep.
sure.
There's a lot of those stories that I come across, and most of them are actually pretty great. Officers are usually pretty lenient whenever they stop an ecto or they stop a group because they understand what it's all about. So yeah,
That's the thing.
um, your music composer did an incredible job. I
Well,
mean, every time a new sequence started, I first noticed the music, and that doesn't happen in movies all the time or documentaries for that matter. But I'm like, wow, he's just nailing the tone of what you're going for each and every time.
well, okay, so I'll give a little plug to him. His name is Scott Buckley, and we may have emailed once or twice before, but I don't actually know him. And he is a guy who runs a website of free music that's designed to be used as film scores. And I've read a little bit about his bio. I believe he's in the sciences professionally and is a music composer as a hobby. And if you IMDb this guy, his music has been in a billion things. Yeah, because it's amazing. You know, it's like it's Hollywood film score quality that he's just like, oh, this is just my hobby. And so all his stuff is for free for, there's a Creative Commons license that is for commercial use or non-commercial use. But what I do, I try to take each one of his tracks, and this is not always, but certainly with some of the tracks, and edit them in a way or slow them down, speed them up, mess with the tone, incorporate them into each other in a way that kind of like makes them my own. Um, so there are certain tracks you may hear them in other movies and you might recognize them. There are certain
Sure.
tracks that are definitely in other movies that you probably wouldn't even recognize as being from the same composer.
I gotcha. So it's mostly you. I was giving him all the credit, but you were actually the one putting it all together and manipulating them. So well done. Fantastic job. I love the music throughout.
Sound. They say sound is more important in a movie than visuals, right? Because you've got to be able to create a movie that if when someone's like looking down at their popcorn, they still know what's going on. You shouldn't have to be looking at the screen all the time to be able to pick up what's happening. So your sound is really important. And they also say that people will tolerate bad picture for way longer than they'll tolerate bad sound.
I've
Uh,
not heard that. That's amazing. Okay.
so I really tried to work hard on the sound, and also like the Jeremy's Ecto-1 vehicle. I mean, the engine and the sirens. So I really tried to like utilize that stuff and incorporate it whenever I could because it's just a damn cool car.
Oh yeah, amazing. I'm still on the hunt for my Ecto. I don't know what it's gonna be yet. Kind of like the way you develop your movies. I'm going to let fate lead me to my Ecto vehicle, whether it be a 59 millimeter or whether it be some sort of modern SUV. I don't know what it's gonna be yet, but I'm still hoping out there, and gonna make it mine, and it's gonna be spectacular, whatever it's gonna be.
Yeah, the Ghostbusters vehicles. And I'm not talking about the ones from the movies. I'm talking about the ones that are acquired by the fan groups. Are just so cool. The Ecto-1, I love iconic movie vehicles, and the Ecto-1 is like amongst the top movie vehicles of all time. And the way, you don't see this with the Batmobile. The Batmobile is also one of the most iconic vehicles, but you don't see fan communities at large building their own Batmobiles. But like
No.
Busters, there's thousands of Ecto-1s all across the country, and no two of them are alike. They all
Right.
have characters and are made from different vehicles. I mean, for like a Motorhead type show, you could do a documentary just on Ectos. That would be awesome.
I would love that. You're giving yourself some ideas now. Watch
Yeah.
out.
Maybe that's Nerds Doing Good Part 2 is just about the vehicles.
Just about the vehicles. That would be amazing. Yeah, I would watch that show in a heartbeat. They could do a TV series on it every day, a new Ecto, something like that. That would be incredible.
Yeah.
Sony, you listening, Sony? Go ahead. Green light that TV series ASAP. We want to
Yep.
see it.
Yep.
Awesome. What's next for you? I know that this documentary is doing well. It's getting up there on Cineverse, but what are some of the projects that you've been sort of either working on or developing in your head?
Well, I took a real left turn after finishing this, and right now I'm working on a feature film that is a psychedelic sci-fi rock and roll movie. So there's no dialogue; it's all rock music in the background, and it's incredibly psychedelic. I shot large sequences of the movie through a microscope, and there's stop motion animation and all kinds of layering and compositing. So I'm really going for like a Pink Floyd, The Wall kind of psychedelic thing. So it's really,
Amazing.
it couldn't be more different than Nerds Doing Good. And that's what excites me about it. But, I'm in post-production on that. I've got a few reshoots to do before I start shopping it around. But the wheels are starting to turn about Nerds Doing Good. I'd like to, it's 22 minutes, so it's really not a film. It's almost more like a pilot episode, and I'm starting to think about, could I reach out to Make-A-Wish? I know that there are Star Wars groups that are very involved in community service. I think it's the 501st. Is that what they're called?
Yep, that's them.
I've been thinking about reaching out to them, just thinking about ways that I could expand this story, because I know that, it started with Ghostbusters, but I know it expands beyond Ghostbusters into all different realms of nerd fandom, which is, that's like, those are my people. That's the kind of stuff I love.
That would be incredible. And I'm sure the 501st would be happy to accommodate. And I don't even know how many of them there are, but I'm sure it's probably close to 100,000, probably in the US alone. So you can take your pick on which group you want to talk to. There's a lot of those guys. They're great people, though. I have a few friends that are in local 501st chapters. So yeah, great group of guys. Let's see here. You're talking about this like sci-fi music. In my head, I'm thinking heavy metal. Is that like, am I on the right track?
Yeah, it's pretty metal. Let's see if I can angle this down here. I've got an electronic drum set just right behind me. So I play drums in a kind of prog rock.
Oh, nice.
And we started about 20 years ago. Broke up, and then in the pandemic, we're like, yeah, we're not doing anything. Let's start writing music. So we started writing music, released an album that's on Spotify and Bandcamp and stuff. And it's like our primary influence collectively is probably Tool. So we
Go on.
We've got a Tool fan over here.
It's not. Yeah, I totally am, because my favorite band's Perfect Circle,
Oh, I love a Perfect Circle.
and they share the same lead singer. So I've been to many a Tool shows, but yeah, I love them. They're fantastic.
I've seen both as well, Tool and APC. So our band is called Man Has a Mania. So we wrote an album. It's out, and between the guys, the two other guys in the band and we started talking about a storyline that could go with the music. So it's really our Pink Floyd, The Wall kind of attempt. So,
Which is a high bar, if you ask me.
oh yeah,
You're aiming for the sky on that one.
Yeah, I know.
Don Jensen wants to know, what don't you do?
Setting myself up for failure. Like, oh yeah, it's like The Wall. People are like, this is not like The Wall.
And when you play it backwards, it actually syncs up to the Ghostbusters 1984 movie.
Yeah, it's perfect. Seamless.
That's fantastic. Well, this is great. You're a big movie buff guy, and you're also a musician. I kind of see myself in you a little bit. That's
Thank,
fantastic. So congrats, man. Yeah.
thank.
Tool. Tool would have probably been my favorite band had I kind of discovered them first. But Perfect Circle is the band I discovered first when I was in high school, and it
Yeah,
was just the right time. I was the right age. They were massive when they first came out, and just every song, every lyric just resonated with me like nobody else ever had. So
yeah.
it's great. I'm actually going to see Maynard in Denver in April at
Oh,
Red Rocks.
is he doing a Pucifer concert or something?
He's doing his 50th birthday, sorry, 60th birthday tour.
Oh,
And so he'll be there with a Perfect Circle and Pucifer
oh, nice.
and Primus.
Wow, what a
Y-
lineup. That's
It's a
great.
great lineup. And at the very beginning, they were only going to do like 4 shows. Now there's like 20 cities. So I guess, you know, if you want to go see that amazing show, go check out, I guess, Pucifer on social media probably is the best place to find out where to get tickets. Access, I think it's on Access tickets, but don't quote me on that.
Did you ever get into Billy Howardell's project after A Perfect Circle, Ashes Divide?
I'm looking for my Billy Howard hat.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I loved Ashes Divide. I got to see them when they were touring for their first album. They opened for Stone Temple Pilots and Everclear of
Oh,
all.
that's a great lineup.
And I thought they were so great, but they just didn't take off, unfortunately. You know, they had one radio hit and then just kind of faded away. I thought their debut album I thought was just amazing.
Yeah, Billy. Billy's my favorite guitarist.
Yeah, I
Uh,
mean, dude's
he,
awesome.
he's incredible. He's so technical and nicest guy ever. I have
Oh,
on
have you met?
2 different occasions, I think. I've met him on 2 different occasions, and that poster that I have framed is actually signed by him and Josh Freeze.
Oh, nice.
Josh, who's the drummer for A Perfect Circle, who just so happened to be playing a show with Billy up in Austin. Whenever I go to Austin, magic happens, and that was one of those occurrences. So yeah, met Billy and Josh at Billy's show. This was last year, I think. So it was like Ashes Divide 2.0. He didn't play any of his old stuff, but the new material is fantastic.
I gotta.
And I think he's writing new material right now, but I don't know for which band. I think it's its own for
Okay.
his own band, but yeah. I love that this has turned into a Perfect Circle Tool, Billy Howardell discussion because I never get to do this, and I absolutely love it. So yeah,
People are like, I thought this was a Ghostbusters podcast.
we'll figure out a way to tie it all back in. Yeah, later on. I don't know what it is, but no. So it's fantastic. It's great. Yeah, music, like you mentioned earlier, um, can enhance so much. A project, a film, a documentary. You did an incredible job manipulating those tunes by you said it was
Scott
Scott
Scott Buckley. Yep.
Scott Buckley. Yeah, you did a wonderful job because it really just like, oh my god, I love what this music is doing right now. It's
Yeah.
setting it up just perfectly. Everything that was happening in the scenes and on the screen.
You know,
Um,
I think a lot of
Wonderful.
people. I think the opening minutes of the documentary take people by surprise, and I think it did for Twin Ports Ghostbusters when they saw it too, because I don't think they realized what kind of movie I was making until they saw that. Because, you know, the obvious Ghostbuster music and the music that they're walking to in the opening shot, which is at a parade, is the Ghostbusters theme, which is fun and funky and 80s, and you know, you can dance to it, and it's like the movie takes a very, very different tone than that. Um, and then I really wanted people to know, like, once the first shot opens and that first tone of music comes in, that you're in for a Ghostbusters experience that you're probably not expecting. Um, so, and that was a very like deliberate choice. They say like when you cast an actor who's playing against type, that's almost how I thought of the music. Like I'm gonna cast the music very much against type.
I love it. Yeah, it's a great sort of juxtaposition of what you're thinking this is going to be about. Or if you hear like, oh, there's a documentary about cosplayers, you can kind of imagine what to expect, and then it just turns into this great, like this deep passion story. I want to call it a love story, but it's not a romantic love story. It's a love for a fandom, and it is a love for camaraderie and just the family dynamic that these groups all portray. It's amazing. It's solid. You did an incredible job. I hope you understand that.
I really
It's all the things I want to say every week, and you did it in this movie. Like it's just you nailed it. You kept everything that was necessary. You edited out hours of material, and it hits home, and it's going to resonate with a lot of people. Go watch Nerds Doing Good when we're done with the stream.
I thought a lot about like what is the value proposition. Like when you're selling a product, you need a value proposition, and what is the value proposition to Ghostbusters groups out there to watch this? And the whole thesis is the movie is that like what you're doing has value. Like it has cultural value, it has sociological value, it's valuable to your community. Like, yeah, you're adults playing dress up, but you're not just adults playing dress up. Like this movement is significant. It's very significant. And that
Absolutely.
like the thesis of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't have said it better, and I've tried, but I haven't said it as well as that. Keith, any final things you want to say about the Twin Ports team, about everybody who's watching it, about how we're using social media to kind of bring up this campaign, about acknowledging this team and other teams out there doing these works? Any final words, sir?
I think that this movie doing well is good for all the Ghostbusters nationwide. So even if you don't feel like watching the documentary, just give that link a click and just let it play and close your browser window even if you don't want to watch it, because that will help the movie get exposure and hopefully get to number one on Cineverse and be a good thing for Ghostbusters nationwide and worldwide.
Absolutely. Keith Hopkins, everybody, the filmmaker, director, music composer. I'll call him that. Music director, at least. Music director for Nerds Doing Good, a story following the Twin Ports Ghostbusters team, now on Cineverse. Link is in the chat. It's actually starred, so it might be pinned at the top. And Keith, I want to thank you so much, man, for taking the time to have this conversation. And I cannot wait to see it at number one. I know it's going to be an amazing day when you see it and the Twin Ports team see it at number one. So congrats, man. You've done it. You just made a documentary in your own mind, but it's so much more than that. And when people really start picking up on it and passing it around, it's going to have a long lasting legacy, because it's maybe the first of its kind that you just nailed the essence and the passion about what we do.
Well, thanks a lot, Ted. I appreciate the kind words, and it's been a pleasure chatting with you tonight.
Twin Ports team is also watching, saying, "All hail Keith."
That sounds like them.
I appreciate you, man. Have a great night. I'm sure I'm going to talk to you soon. And everybody who's watching after the stream's over, go to the link, watch Nerds Doing Good once more if you've already seen it. If you haven't seen it, you're going to want to check it out. Appreciate you, Keith. Thank you so much, man.
Thanks, Ted.
All right. We have one final, maybe two final things to take care of. I teased a big announcement earlier today, and here is that announcement. We're going to be having our next stream on Monday. That is Monday, already March the 4th. And it's going to be an equally exciting show because we're going to be joined by the creative team behind Ghostbusters Back in Town, the limited comic series that's a prequel to Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. We're going to be chatting with one of the writers and one of the artists for the comics. And there's a lot we want to talk about. But as you might have guessed, there's also a lot we don't want to spoil. So join us Monday night so that we can have a conversation with the creative team behind Ghostbusters Back in Town. And please don't ask any spoiler questions. I don't want to be spoiled. You don't want to be spoiled. But it's gonna be great. And they're gonna tell us anything they're allowed to tell us. Obviously, this is a story about how we'll call them the Spangler's descendants are going from Oklahoma back to NYC. And the comics, from what we've seen in the covers, they're pretty intricate stories. I mean, they're pretty out there. And so it's gonna feel like maybe the animated series coming into the form of a comic book. And I think we can all be excited about that. Um, Also, shout out to Rudy. While we were in our deep discussion about our favorite alternative bands, Rudy dropped 1,000 stars into the chat. Rudy, you are amazing, sir. Thank you so much for that. That's incredible. And giveaway time. I promised a giveaway, and I keep forgetting to do it. But here it is right now. So if you've been waiting this entire time for the giveaway, what we're doing is we're going to be selecting a bunch of people to win a pair of tickets to go see Imaginary. This is not an advanced screening, like not one location, not one time. These are going to be vouchers for free tickets to this movie that you can see at any point in time. The only thing you have to, I guess, worry about is if there is a participating theater for adamtickets.com. Adam Tickets is where we're going to be giving the vouchers away. So in the chat right now is a link to our website, countdowncitygeeks.com, and there is an entry form. Fill out the entry form, and you have entered yourself into potentially winning a pair of tickets to go see Imaginary. No, not the Ryan Reynolds movie. That's called If. This is the scary one with the killer teddy bear. It looks interesting. It's distributed by Lionsgate, produced by Blumhouse, which they hit a home run more times than not. So if you want to go see Imaginary for free on us, Kansas City Geeks, Ghostheads Radio, it fit in with the whole theme of Ghostbusters, right? Go to the link. That's all I got. Keep an eye on our social media because I'm going to be giving away one of these guys. I've been reading y'all's comments, and I know there's a lot of people that don't have a Cinemark in their area. And as I wish I could buy as many as I could, but they're actually very limited now in my town. So I'm going to be posting a contest on how you can get a Slimer bucket. I'm going to make sure you guys get it well in advance before the movie comes out. And I know there's one more thing I'm forgetting, and I'm probably not going to remember it. Oh, I remember now. We are hosting in San Antonio, Texas, a advanced screening of Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. It's going to take place on March 20th. And watch our social media because I want to have some winners join us. I'm going to be with my Countdown City Geeks network group, my media team, and I'm also going to be with my Ghostbusters team. We're all going to be there in attendance. It's going to be amazing. It's the best place to watch it in San Antonio with this group of people, and you'll be surrounded by a bunch of Ghostbusters in flight suits, wearing some proton packs, and we're just gonna love every absolute minute of it. Follow us on social media so you can find out how to be entered into a chance to win a pair of tickets to our advanced screening, absolutely free. And that's it. That's everything. Whew. There's a ton of announcements. Thanks for watching, everybody. I love you all. You guys are great. Shout out to Paul King in the Midland Mall Comic Con, which is happening this weekend. Go do that. Oh, so many things. So many things. Not enough time. Last but definitely not least, in case you didn't hear about it, the Buffalo Ghostbusters, who were putting on a great contest for the deck of cards with all the chapter logos on it, they got hit by the Facebook Meta algorithm. Their entire page was taken down, and they thought they were going to get it back up eventually, like most teams do. They have not. So please, if you would, go follow the Buffalo G Busters today, right now, after this stream. Go follow their page. It's infuriating that they couldn't get their original page back. I know a lot of teams would just I can't imagine what that feeling is like, especially for them because they put on such a great contest with those deck playing cards. Congrats to all the teams, by the way, who are going to be featured on those cards. Go follow them. You got 2 homework assignments every episode. Homework assignments. Number 1, go follow the Buffalo G Busters. Shout out to Chris Burns and team. You guys are awesome. Number 2, go to the link in the chat so that you guys can watch the Nerds Doing Good on Cineverse. We're going to get it to number 1. If it happens by this weekend, amazing. If not, it needs to happen by the time Frozen Empire comes out. We will not rest until we conquer Cineverse. Thank you, guys. I appreciate you all. Have a great night. Thanks for watching. I'll see you Monday. Peace.